I'm Ryan Salazar with Broadcast Beat, and everybody knows that I'm a post-production guy. That's what I love to do and what I love to talk about. Today we have two very special guests, and in a time where working remotely is such a big deal. So first off, we have Robert Herzon, president at ScaleLogic. How you doing, Robert?
Doing great, Ryan. Good to see you.
Excellent. So go ahead and tell everybody what ScaleLogic does and how you got started.
Well, how I got started, that goes way too far. We don't have that much time. But basically, ScaleLogic is a value-add manufacturer of shared storage solutions that focuses into the media and entertainment market. We look to solve problems and issues tied to various different types of workflow that our industry finds themselves into. In today's conversation, we'll get into exactly how we adapt to changing times.
All right, so Mike Salerno, he's a freelance video editor in the greater New York City area. How you doing, Mike?
Good, how are you?
Doing great. So tell us about your position and what you do.
So essentially, I am a freelance video editor, and I have a few corporate clients. And for one client, we rolled out a new remote solution that Robert developed, and that's what we're currently using right now to kind of keep all our editors in sync during this remote workflow.
Excellent. So, 2020 was such a big learning experience for all of us, if you will. Everybody's learning to work remotely. Thank God we were already working remotely, but then you really have to step it up and you realize what things you have to change to make your workflow better. So let's talk about the editing challenges, Mike, that you were facing pre-pandemic, if you will.
So pre-pandemic, we had it pretty well, honestly. Pre-pandemic, we had a shared solution. We were all in sync. If we needed to grab something from another editor, we could just step in because we're all on shared storage, which was another solution Robert provided. And once the pandemic hit, we lost our shared storage, and that's really when we needed a new solution to to adapt to the new environment.
Let's talk about once COVID hit, you needed to find a solution. You needed to make it work for everybody remotely. How did you work around those issues?
So at the start, essentially, since we didn't have any shared storage, we were just using file sharing sites to pass footage, project files, assets, and it just became a bit cumbersome when you're always uploading and downloading. And then eventually, you really want everything back in your main facility, so then you had to essentially send it back there. So there's just now multiple steps in doing things, and it just took longer to get projects from other editors, project files, things like that, and it just slowed us down at the start.
Hey, so Robert, I'm going to bounce back to you real quick and kind of get in the middle here from when it doesn't even have to do with a pandemic or whatever, COVID-19. I'm sure you've seen a lot of companies that haven't had storage, and you have to deal with how to get all their stuff off of, external hard drives and whatnot. But then RAP comes into the mix here. So let's talk about RAP and what it does and how it helped Mike.
Yeah, so RAP was actually conceived based around the pandemic. Our focus for well over 2 decades has been building shared storage for media workflows. And so customers like Mike and the people that he's been working for, those are our legacy clients out there. And when the pandemic hit, we quickly saw that there was going to be an issue. We had many customers calling us looking for ways to solve their problem, which primarily was, like Mike said, we're using different types of technologies. If we were VPNing in or TeamViewer in, there's probably no less than 20 different ways to try to support your collaborative workflow through different technical tools. But we wanted to find something that was a little bit different and more specific to the problem these clients were having. And that was not about getting the access as much but it was to keep them collaborating with the shared storage that they have. So RAP is developed as a 1U appliance that will sit on-prem with the shared storage device and act as a gateway or a sync mechanism to the remote clients. So in all practical purposes, it takes their on-prem storage at their facility and turns it into a private cloud by allowing you to manage the same level of collaboration with your editors. You can assign out the volumes that they're using on the shared storage. It'll push content up to their remote locations and then allow them to work on an on-prem cache at their facility. Could be an SSD, could be a spinning disk, whatever they need for the level of performance. And then it'll sync the changes back to the on-prem storage simultaneously, and allowing anyone collaborating on that content to basically work on the same content.
And it's such a big deal. I've seen a lot of people. I ran a large post-production facility for Omnicom Group for 13 years, and man, oh man, I've seen people just sharing stuff, and not just with that group, but with other organizations as well. They're sharing files on Google Drive, and somebody else has Dropbox, and then before you know it, you have a file that exists in 4 places. It becomes a nightmare to physically manage those assets, and of course, then there comes the labeling and all that. So Mike, I'm curious, how else is Wrap helping you and freelance editors like you navigate through COVID? Stay organized and do it efficiently?
Sure. So to go back to, before we had Wrap, let's say we had 6 editors. I couldn't see with what all the other editors were doing if they were working on a current project. Now with Wrap, I could opt into their current project folder and I could actually grab assets, I could grab elements, and it's all just a click away rather than, pre-Wrap, you were essentially working blind because we were now on about 6 local drives and we had no access, we had no shared storage. So now it's just way easier to see what everyone else is working on. And even if I need to collaborate with a project, I could share a project folder and they'll have real-time access as I work.
So was there a learning curve? And I'm curious, does it kind of keep track of versioning and whatnot?
Yeah, so it's, it just runs in the background. All the editors have a desktop client, and it sends it back to our main facility, and it syncs back. And yeah, there was essentially no learning curve because you get used to it and it just runs in the background and it just syncs. So not much of a learning curve, no.
Got it. So how much time would you say you and your freelancer colleagues have saved using Wrap?
Hours for sure. One thing we like about it is, for example, we had a producer who was working in a different state. They would shoot and, they would Wrap late at night. They would upload the footage. And what's great about Wrap is you have the ability to share the folder so they can just push it to our local drive. So when I wake up in the morning, I already have the footage rather than having to, babysit a download or grab it in the morning. So it'll automatically sync overnight, which is nice.
All right. So Robert, let's talk about security. If you think about maybe like a motion picture production house, they're really big on security and whatnot. So how does this protect your files effectively?
Well, the primary level of security is that you're working off a secure port at your data center. And so that's allowing the security between you and your remote client. The security for your remote client, that's going to be based on the policies that the company has. If you've got LDAP or AD set up, and use those to help manage it, but you'll have to have your own personal security in place at that point. But the key for us is that the security is done between the HTTP connection coming out of the primary data center to the remote client.
Got it. So as COVID subsides, how do you see the usage of Wrap changing? Of course, different businesses are changing their business models. They're going to continue to work remotely. Obviously, still have people in facilities as time goes on too. But how do you see that all changing in the industry?
Hey, they call it the new norm now, don't they? So
yes.
We're all getting very used to working from home. I think I was talking to Mike, and he said that the editors really enjoy. They've got the peace and quiet of their own environment, and they can be a lot more comfortable, and they can work throughout the days into the evenings. So they're giving them the ability to basically not lose any of the workflow that they had on-prem and do it at at the location they're at, or if they're traveling. So I think Wrap has got a long history for helping drive new workflows for media clients.
So Mike, from a freelancer perspective, how does Wrap benefit companies that implement it? So I suppose that they have access to larger pools of talent for editors and whatnot.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, the great thing is, you could essentially generate links to any directory in your shared storage now. So if you're working with a freelance motion designer, you could just send them a link to your render folder and you could just drag and drop. And it's just way easier to share and receive footage or renders or whatever you need. So it just saves a lot of time.
Go to ScaleLogicInc.com for more details. Robert Herzon, president at ScaleLogic, and Mike Salerno, professional freelance editor in New York City. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you, Ryan. Have a good day.